One of the biggest barriers was the lack of community. And I think that events like the Angling Women in Action event at ICAST, events like, some of the events you and I have teamed up to do, some of the kayak fishing events here in Southwest Florida, and then some of these events like we're going to be holding in the future at Guy Harvey Outpost Resorts is helping to sort of resolve that barrier.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer Podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your host, Master Captain Angie Scott.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer Podcast. I'm your host, Angie Scott, and today we have a very special guest joining us once again, Captain Debbie Hanson. Debbie is a U.S. Coast Guard licensed freshwater fishing guide, outdoor writer, and former radio personality down in Southwest Florida. You might remember her from past episodes or from some of her articles, which have been featured in various magazines like Saltwater Sportsman, Florida Sportsman, and the Florida Game and Fish magazine. She's also a blogger for the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation's Take Me Fishing brand, and is deeply involved in Fish Florida, a nonprofit organization. Welcome back to the show, Debbie.
Thank you so much for having me back on, Angie. I always enjoy our conversations and really, really appreciate all the details in the intro. Oh my gosh.
Well, you do a lot of things, that's for sure. So as you know, we're kind of getting ready to wind down the 2024 season for the Woman Angler and Adventurer Podcast, and it kind of feels like a good time to reflect. I know you've been on the podcast several times now, and we've shared some really fantastic conversations. So anything going on or any updates since, the last time we had you on the show?
Yeah, lots of new things going on. And specifically, I guess to start off with some exciting things that I'm working on with Guy Harvey Outpost Resorts. Yeah. They have brought me on as one of their pro team guides. So basically, I'm going to be working on a series of events with Guy Harvey Outpost Resorts. We just actually did one earlier in June, and we had a small group of ladies head up to the Lake Wales area, and they joined us at Guy Harvey Camp Mac for a small group day of bass fishing instruction. Actually, the first day was an introduction to tackle and gear, and then the second day we did some bass fishing and some freshwater fishing from the kayaks on the water in the state park. So Lake Kissimmee State Park is right around the corner from Camp Mac, and it was perfect. It was just ideal for people who are first-time kayakers because they have a canal that runs through the state park. And so it was very protected and just a safe and enjoyable experience for everyone. And a lot of the ladies really felt that the smaller group, I think we had like 8 ladies, and they felt that the smaller group was perfect because they didn't feel intimidated about asking questions or asking for clarification on anything. So yeah, it went really great. And I'm honored to be on the pro team with Guy Harvey Outpost Resorts and really looking forward to doing a lot more events with them in the future.
So yeah, I saw some of the pictures from that event, and it looked like a lot of fun. Who are some of the key contributors that made that event possible? I know you had some sponsors and whatnot, right?
It was really just Guy Harvey Outpost Resorts that put it on. They've got a great team up there at Camp Mac that pitched in, all of their staff up there. So we did like a wine and cheese evening while we were doing some of the knot tying sessions and some of the introductions to different types of, bass fishing baits and presentations. So the ladies really enjoyed that. But yeah, no, it was just basically Guy Harvey Outpost Resorts that put it on in conjunction with myself. And it went great. So like I said, hoping to do many more of those in the future. I think the small group format really lends itself well to people just feeling more at ease and more comfortable learning. And as I mentioned before, just asking questions, and everybody got to know each other really well. A lot of the ladies by the end of the trip were making plans to fish together and to go back up to Camp Mac and fish again in the future. So, and that's the goal, because as you know, the more opportunities, the more these ladies bond and get out on the water together and start learning from each other and helping each other, the higher the chances are that they're going to continue fishing for a long time to come. And that's the goal.
Yeah. That's incredible. I know, I think Captain Allie Decker was there on that one too.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I should absolutely mention Allie, because she was a huge help. She actually came and attended because Captain Allie Decker works out of Bonita Bay Marina here in Southwest Florida, but she does primarily a lot of boating safety orientations and things like that. She doesn't do as much fishing, but she's trying to learn more about fishing, and will, hopefully be taking people out on the water and running some fishing charters as well. But it was an opportunity for her to learn a little bit more about the freshwater side and also get connected with some great ladies. And she was, she's a wonderful young woman who has a bright future ahead of her. And she was also a huge help in terms of helping me get things organized. And our mutual friend, Gabriella McGrath, she went up with me the month before so we could do some scouting before the actual event. And just so we had an idea of what the waterway was like and the type of species that we might be able to catch up there. We ended up getting into some largemouth bass, a couple of bowfin, some stump knockers. So yeah, we had a really good time, and hope to do it again soon.
Very cool. What type of baits and lures were y'all using?
So we used primarily a lot of soft plastic Senkos or soft plastic stick baits, worms primarily. Some of us were using the Ned rig and some of the micro finesse baits by Z-Man. So most of what we were doing was finesse fishing, because this time of year, the water temperature is so warm. So we kind of we downsized everything. Just smaller presentations seemed to be the key to getting the bites. And if we weren't using smaller presentations, it was just fishing on the bottom. Those fish are going down deeper during the warmer months of the year. So that seemed really to be the ticket in terms of getting bites. But fishing was a little slower, I think, than we had anticipated that day. But again, we were kind of trying to balance out, okay, for a lot of the first timers who have never fished from a kayak before, being out on a big lake in the open water when there's a lot of wind can be pretty challenging when you're trying to cast and you're using a paddle with a kayak instead of a pedal drive kayak. Mm-hmm. So we kept it in the canal, which was calm, and just got everybody acclimated that way. And really got them more familiar with using artificials and kind of the techniques to use and how to work the baits. So it was a great learning experience for everybody. And the ladies that attended were just fantastic. They were super fun and super excited to be there. So it was just awesome. Nice. Good stuff.
Can't go wrong with those Senkos.
I know. You and I have talked about this many times. They're our go-to.
Yep.
To me, it's like the 5-inch black Senko it's one of my tackle box staples. Got to have that handy all the time.
Absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit more about the whole Guy Harvey Outpost. So I'm on the website. It looks like they've got multiple destinations. I believe in Mexico even. Is it just a place where people can go, like make reservations and stay, or how is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So they have a number of different resorts. specifically a couple here in Florida, the Camp Mac, Guy Harvey Outpost Camp Mac location, which is in Lake Wales. And then they have another destination up in St. Augustine. And then they do have some international resorts as well. And basically the whole theme and the whole mindset is just basically focused on fishing. And that's part of the allure of attending, or going to an event or staying at a Guy Harvey Outpost Resort it's that fishing lifestyle and immersing yourself in the fishing lifestyle. So yeah, their St. Augustine location, I know that they do some beach fishing events out of that location. And then obviously the location in Mexico, just some phenomenal inshore saltwater fishing opportunities down there. So I highly encourage people to go to guyharveyoutpostresorts.com and check it out.
Yeah, they even have an event that's Pups and Sups Dogs Surfing Classic. So dogs on stand-up paddleboards. That looks like a lot of fun. I'm glad you mentioned that, because they are really doing a fantastic job. I've been working with Kevin Donnell. He does a lot of their event planning and coordinating, and he really does a wonderful job of bringing so many different types of events to the resorts for people to enjoy. So I know they do like a big barbecue cook-off at the Camp Mac location, and they were doing a gambler bass kayak fishing tournament the same weekend I was doing my ladies event up there. So there's always something going on. You can go to their events page and check it out. So if you live in the state of Florida, certainly one of the two resorts is probably within a day's drive for you, and just lots of fun to be had and lots of different events going on throughout the year. Very cool. So I imagine that's probably the best place where people can stay tuned for any future events with the women that you have going on.
Yeah, definitely. Or I will share those updates on my Facebook page as well. So people can go to either find me on Facebook, just Debbie Hanson, or go to the She Fishes Too Facebook page. And I'll be posting information on those two social media profiles as we get closer and start planning some more events, which I'm, like I said, really looking forward to.
Very cool. I love it. It's a perfect fit, and it's right along the lines of what we've been talking about over the years, having these events, what BB's doing at ICAST every year, just opportunities for women to get together and do exactly what you described. So
yeah, for sure. I know that when we went to ICAST, I think it was last year, and we went to the women's engagement breakfast that our BFF put on, we got a handout that talked about some of the barriers that women face when it comes to fishing, and talked about the fact that female anglers face adversity, resistance, disrespect, and underrepresentation from the industry and fellow anglers in a lot of cases. And one of the biggest barriers was the lack of community. And I think that events like the Angling Women in Action event at ICAST, events like, some of the events you and I have teamed up to do, some of the kayak fishing events here in Southwest Florida, and then some of these events like we're going to be holding in the future at Guy Harvey Outpost Resorts, is helping to sort of resolve that barrier by building a sense of community among more female anglers. Because according to some of the statistics, 1 in 4 lapsed female anglers cited not having anyone to go fishing with as a barrier as to why they aren't doing it or continuing to do it. And then, 40% of female anglers, according to these statistics, want some type of women's fishing club or organization to help them get out and fish more often. So I think the more that we can plan these types of events and encourage ladies to get together and fish together on their own, the more we're building that sense of community and helping to, again, break through that barrier.
Want to learn about fishing, hunting, and outdoor gear from fellow experienced outdoor women, as well as get inspired to try something new in the outdoors? Then subscribe to Adventurous, the only women's hunting and fishing magazine. Adventurous is a high-quality print magazine that receives rave reviews, and it also makes a great gift for other outdoor women and youth. Subscribe at Adventurous Magazine and use code WOMANANGLER for 15% off. Well, I had the honor of being on your ESPN Real Talk Radio show the day that you made the announcement that you were kind of transitioning and moving on from that show. Can you share with our listeners what that transition's been like for you and what you've been up to?
Yeah, well, it's always an honor having you on the show, and I know we had some great conversations in the ESPN Southwest Florida studio too during Real Talk Radio for 2 years. You were on 2 years in a row. Yeah, and it's been a little bit of a tough transition because, as I'm sure you know, when you host a podcast or you're on a radio show, you start to really build a lot of relationships in the fishing community, and I miss a lot of those conversations. There were just so many wonderful conversations that I had over the course of 4 years that, I mean, I learned so much. It's you think you're starting to learn more and more about the fishing industry, and I know we've talked about this many times too, but you can never know it all. And there's always somebody that brings a different perspective to the industry, or who has a different, who fishes a different fishing technique, or who is doing something that's sort of, groundbreaking in the industry. And all those conversations are just, they would just light up my passion every Saturday. So I definitely miss that. I just think back to some of the episodes, like the episode I did with Benny Ortiz on slow pitch jigging, and Hunter Bland came on and just did a fantastic job of boating safety. I mean, he really made it not just, people think boating safety kind of, people are like, oh boy, I don't really want to talk about that. Hunter really shared, his personal experience and made it so educational, but also interesting, and people really enjoyed hearing from him. So yeah. And then of course, Crazy Albert O'Neill and, Captain Lisa Fitzgerald. I mean, Pam Worth, so many amazing guests in the studio over the years. And so, yeah, it's definitely bittersweet. It's been nice to have a little bit more downtime on the weekends and time to run charters on the weekends and to do some of these events like I'm doing with Guy Harvey Outpost Resorts, but also definitely miss those conversations, certainly. So who knows what the future will hold.
Yeah, well, I can relate 100%. That's my favorite part of doing this podcast, is having these conversations. I'm not necessarily in love with all the other work that goes along with it, but
right.
Getting to be able to chat with people, meet new people, even if it's over the airways, and eventually hopefully getting to meet in person at events and whatnot. But it's definitely a lot of fun, and I can understand how you miss that part of it for sure. And you mentioned boating safety. So as we're recording this episode, I'm on the CETO Foundation's National Safe Boating Council, and we had our quarterly meeting today, and we were talking about what everybody did to help promote National Safe Boating Week. I did an episode where I kind of shared my top 5 boating safety tips, but one guy on the call mentioned something I hadn't really thought about before, and that's the importance of having a tourniquet on your boat. He's seen a lot of prop strikes and things like that. But there was also like a story somebody shared where somebody was cutting a zip tie off of something, and it I don't know if he accidentally cut his arm or what it was, or if the zip tie like slashed him. But he like hit a major artery and was bleeding a lot. And, that CETO captain was like the first responder, first one on the scene. They happened to have a tourniquet on their boat. Now, it's something I hadn't really thought of before, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it just always be prepared. It's true. You just don't know what could happen out there. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, with the fishing that I do, it's pretty calm and a lot of inland canals that aren't as busy as far as boat traffic and whatnot. But for so many people here in Southwest Florida who are out in the back bays and the intercoastal waterways, it gets really busy. And I'm sure, on the lake that you boat on up there, I mean, holiday weekends are so busy. It's so important to be prepared and just always be thinking, have your first aid kit on board, have a personal locator beacon. I mean, a lot of times people think, well, why do I need a personal locator beacon or a marine radio? Because I've got my cell phone. But I mean, you know how it is when you're out there on the water. If you set your iPhone down in the sun, that overheats and you can be stuck without a means of communication. So
yeah,
there's a lot to take into consideration, but the tourniquet suggestion, that's a really good safety tip to think about for sure.
Yeah, out here it's, a lot of pleasure boaters, people pulling kids on tubes, that's that type of thing. And so it only takes a second for an accident to happen. So definitely always want to be bringing boating safety to everybody's top of mind. And, of course, I had that situation down in Florida where we got stranded on Jewel Key. Did an episode about that a while ago. And thankfully, our captain had his PFD on. I don't think he'd be here today if he didn't. And he had a waterproof cell phone in his pocket. And but he did have also an EPIRB. We didn't have to use it because he was able to get in touch with his neighbor who came out and got us. But very, very important things to think about.
Yeah, definitely. I know that you were out with Captain John Hand that day. And actually my friend Joe Mahler and myself we're working on another event too that's going to be coming up in November here in Southwest Florida called Fly Fish Southwest Florida. And we're going to have it at FGCU. And John Hand is going to be a part of that.
Oh, cool.
So
tell him I said hello.
I will. It's exciting. We've got about 12 or 13 speakers, including Captain Christina Legutke. So nice. I'm excited to finally get to know her a little bit better. And it's awesome. Going to be focused on fly fishing in this area. So really looking forward to that. It'll be a really educational event held at FGCU.
Very cool. Any other things coming up, events? Any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah. So I definitely want to give a shout out to MeasureNet. I've been working with the Able brothers. They actually reached out to me and they were trying to raise awareness. So some people who are familiar with the fly or who fly fish, who are involved in the fly fishing community are probably familiar with Able Reels. And so it's the two sons of the gentleman that founded Able Reels. They created a company called MeasureNet because they noticed people when they were out there fly fishing, were having to take the fish out of the water to measure to get a measurement. And they came up with a net that actually has a measuring device printed on the net itself. So when you've got the fish in the net, you can tell exactly how many inches the fish is. Oh, wow. And of course it's a rubberized net, so it doesn't damage the slime coating on the fish. And it's just really well made. So I've been working with the MeasureNet guys and of course, Riley Rock Crafters and Montauk Tackle, which is American-made fishing apparel. And I've been working with them. My goodness, it's probably been like 10 years. And they do some really nice shirts, UPF shirts. So going to protect you from those ultraviolet rays. And they actually use recycled plastic water bottles in their material. So they're made in America and also eco-friendly and sustainable.
Very cool.
So yeah. So that's kind of, what I've been up to aside from guiding and getting out there and chasing peacock bass and doing some writing. yeah, just really working on the events with Guy Harvey Outpost Resorts, and then working on the Fly Fish Southwest Florida event that we'll be having in November.
Awesome. Well, we'll be back down there in November, and I can't wait. The time's flying by, so we'll be there in no time, and hopefully we'll get to do some more fishing while we're down there.
Yeah, I know. But last year when you were down, it came and went. It flew. It went by so fast. It was
did.
like you guys came down and then, wow, the months just flew by. But we definitely need to get out there when you get down in November, because usually things don't start picking up from a guiding perspective for me full speed until after January 1st, once people kind of get resituated after the holidays and things start to get really busy. So yeah, we'll have to get out there in November when you guys get back into town for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we were there 5 months and then they flew by like it was insane. I couldn't believe it. So, always try to live in the moment and take it all in, but sometimes it's hard. So
I know, and you really got into cornhole this past year too.
Did, yeah, and I'm actually really excited. This is so crazy. I'm like, there's as we're having this conversation, the like national doubles and singles worlds are coming up this weekend. They'll be on ESPN. I'm like so excited to watch it. It's hilarious. But it's that competitiveness in me. As I'm not doing tournament fishing this year, I have to replace it with something.
There you go. And so I mean, how do you feel being kind of away from the tournament fishing scene this year?
Definitely miss it. I just the other night I was actually really reminiscing about it's the camaraderie. I mean, that's one of the greatest parts about it. Luckily we've been very fortunate, these friendships we've made on tour, still being connected with the ladies, even though we haven't been getting out to the tournaments, but we've had some visit us, if they're coming through. We had several visit us while we were down in Florida this past season. And so, it's great to still have those connections, but do miss, getting to see everybody on a more regular basis. Miss the fishing, of course, and getting out and figuring out different lakes and all that goes into it. But, comes down to paying the bills. And
yeah,
maybe one day it will change to where we'll have more support for the ladies tour, and where if you win a tournament, that's actually more than just paying for your travel and whatnot. But it's not all about the money, of course, but you got to have it to be able to do it. So
yeah, no, that's true. Either that or you and I just need to start buying some lottery tickets, Angie. I don't know.
There you go. Maybe that's what we need to do.
Win a few million and then we're good.
Yep. And like Lori from Two Chicks in a Boat, she always talks about buying lottery tickets and she's going to give everybody a car. She's like, you get a car, you get a car.
Well, and I love to see what Lori and Beth are doing with their tournament circuit, because it seems like they are just having a great time. And I know that all the ladies that are fishing with them are having a blast, because Lori and Beth are just two of the nicest, most positive women and role models out there. So it's great to see everything that they're doing to help get more ladies out and fishing tournaments. I'm sure that they've created such a approachable environment and just comfortable environment for those ladies to get into tournament fishing.
Yep, and it's a team format, so that helps even more with that comfort level, because you get to know the person that you're teaming up with and fishing with them on a regular basis. So I think that's a great format for a women's trail. And we did have them on this season, earlier in the season when the 2024 Woman Angler and Adventure season kicked off. So if you missed that, you can go back and listen to that and learn a little bit more about what we're talking about. But they seem to be continuing to grow. So love what they're doing, and they seem to be on the right track.
Yeah, definitely. So one more thing I wanted to ask you is, I know that you have had some really impressive guests on this season. So who do you have any favorites from this past season, or an episode that maybe really resonated with you for one reason or another out of all the interviews that you've done?
Well, yeah, no, I've been very blessed to have some amazing guests on. Just recently here, Misty Wells, hilarious story. I mean, I met her years ago at a Cast for a Cure event that Chris Young was putting on with the three legends. And we talked about doing an episode. And then, everybody's busy, things get crazy. We've probably talked about setting up a time to do an episode, maybe, I don't know, probably 5 times at least over the years. And then something always falls through. And she reached out recently and was like, we need to do an episode. I'm like, yeah, we do. It's been, 5 years or however long. And so we finally did it. And that was really great. We had a great conversation with Misty and everything she's got going on with the TV show. Let's Take It Outside, and excited for her new season. And the other one, not too long ago here, this lady reached out to me out of the blue via the womanangler.com website and said, hey, I'm a musician. I'm highly passionate about fishing. I'd love to be on the show to talk about it. And I looked her up, and she's the lead singer of this all-female rock band called Plush, Mariah Formica, and we just had a super fun conversation talking about just fishing. I love hearing her excitement about it. Kind of takes me back to the beginning when I was just learning, and how she kind of uses fishing as therapy almost, because when you're playing intense rock shows every night, it's kind of a totally different feel. So it balances her out. So that was super fun. But yeah, it's been a great 2024 season thus far. So.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to go back and listen to some of those episodes. I've skipped a few, so I'll be going back to listen and just, keep up all the awesome work, because I love following what you're doing. And it seems like you've just been posting about some fantastic guests coming on. So it's great.
Well, that's the great thing about podcasts is you can build them up and binge listen, or, however you want. We're busy trying to keep up with Mel Robbins every week too. So.
Oh my gosh. I love Mel Robbins. Love Mel Robbins.
Yep. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming back on the show. Always great to catch up with you, and look forward to seeing all the exciting future events that you've got going on with Guy Harvey Outpost.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me back. It's always a pleasure. I really enjoy our conversations, Angie.